Hi, no. Hi, this is Hi, this is Chris Hinds, councilperson for Denver City Council's District 10. Happy New Year. With the new year, we've got a new set of technology challenges. So sorry we're a few minutes late. We did get ourselves a new piece of lighting, so hopefully the shadows aren't as bad. We did get a couple comments about how I was in the shadows, so now I'm not. It also makes it more difficult for me we got comments about how sometimes I interact with someone off camera. Well, now it's harder for me to interact with that person off camera because there's this huge light that's right in front of me. So anyway, Chris Hinds, Denver City Council's District 10. If you are not familiar with District 10, it is Uptown, Capitol Hill, Golden Triangle, Cheeseman, Congress, Cherry Creek Country Club, Belcaro, and the top half of Spear, also known as Alamo Placida. So happy New Year. Let's talk a little bit about my priorities. My priorities have always been housing, transportation, and representation. Let's talk about housing. Last Friday, we had a district court here in the city of Denver rule that our camping ban is unconstitutional because it violates the 8th Amendment, specifically cruel and unusual punishment. That was on Friday. On Monday, the city attorney's office has filed that it intends to appeal the decision. So that has been a conversation that has had a lot of controversy and a lot of discussion. The controversy is, hey, guess what? This is unconstitutional. Why are we appealing an unconstitutional ruling? All the way to, well, the decision on Friday was actually about one particular ticket issued in the city of Denver and has nothing to do with anything larger than that. So I think that will start to shake out at some point in the near future, but I think it once again brings to the forefront a conversation that we heard a lot in the campaign, and that is about housing and homelessness. And so we, at least tactically, we as a city, our police department has said that it won't be enforcing the camping ban ordinance until we get a bit more clarity. And then yet the city of Denver has issued a couple 7-day sweep notices since last Friday, and they've made it explicit to everyone that they aren't using the camping ban as the justification for the sweep. So let's talk about that for a second. Okay, so let's talk about Initiative 300 for 1 second, and then we'll go back to the sweep and the camping ban and other laws that are related to the camping ban. So on May 7th, the same day that I had my general election, the citizens of Denver voted on Initiative 300. So this Initiative 300 was talking about, it was called Right to Survive, which that's the main proponent's title for it. And the Right to Survive was about the camping ban and a whole bunch more. So Initiative 300 had the repeal of the camping ban. It talked about civil rights. It talked about how you cannot touch someone who is camping, and if you do, that's a civil rights violation. There were a whole bunch of more things that were involved with Initiative 300 beyond the camping ban, but because that was the only thing under consideration at the time, we just talked about Initiative 300. But now the Initiative 300 has been defeated by a lot. 82 to 83% of Denverites cast a ballot saying no. That's a subtle conversation, but I think it's important for us to make a distinction between Initiative 300 and the camping ban. Again, I-300 was a camping ban plus more. So, so now that Initiative 300 is settled, we have to remind ourselves, what does the camping ban mean? And does the repeal of the camping ban or the unconstitutionality of the camping ban, does that mean that suddenly we'll have dogs and cats living together, or all the other doomsday sorts of predictions that we heard in Ghostbusters and elsewhere? that isn't necessarily the case, and so that's part of the conversation right now. But I think it's also important for us to recognize that there are a whole bunch of other laws that are on the books. Like, for example, there's a law against encroaching on the right-of-way. And so the right-of-ways, like our streets and our sidewalks, have to be remain clear for people trying to get from wherever they are to wherever they want to go. Also, there's a law on the books against panhandling. There's a law on the books against littering. There's a law on the books against a whole bunch of other things that that just as people were potentially lumping Initiative 300 and the camping ban together, I think it's important for us to make a distinction between the camping ban and a whole bunch of other laws that would exist even if the camping ban were repealed. Sorry, we had a ghost come in to our office apparently. Anyway, so if the camping ban is found unconstitutional, or if City Council does take up repealing the camping ban, there are a whole bunch of other laws in the books that keep us from, from people doing a lot of the things that people are afraid of will happen if the camping ban is repealed. So I'll mention that at this point. Because we're several minutes late, I might have to make that a little shorter than otherwise, but I also want to talk about the East Central Area Plan. Over the Christmas break, I asked the community planning and development folks to extend the public comment for the first draft of the East Central Area Plan for one more month, and as you may have read a couple days ago, they have actually granted that extension. So good news for us, we have another month to consider the feedback on the first draft. That doesn't mean that that's our last opportunity for public comment, but it does give us a total of 3 months for those comments, including the holidays holiday months of November, December. But now we have all of January through, it's February 5th, I believe is the date, for us to make comments, and for all of us who live in the 6 neighborhoods that are with the East Central Area Plan to comment on the design. And I encourage you, please do review and comment on the East Central Area Plan. It's a 270-page document, which is pretty darn big, but if you like, there are specific sections for the 6 neighborhoods that are involved. And if you're in District 10, the 4 neighborhoods in District 10 that are part of the East Central Area Plan are Uptown, Capitol Hill, Cheeseman, and Congress. So if you live in any of those 4 neighborhoods, you're welcome, obviously, to look at the entire plan, or you're welcome to zoom in on specifically your neighborhood. And maybe that would be a way for you to not have to be daunted by the 270 pages of the entire plan. But we certainly want to get this right. Basically, this document, the East Central Area Plan, is the documentation of the conversation and agreement between government, developers, and neighbors. And it's really important that we get it right, because this document will hopefully guide us through until 2040. So the next 20 years is potentially up for grabs with this guiding document. So like I said, we should make sure that we get it right. So let's talk about transportation. As you may have heard, the Denver Botanic Gardens is raising its fees for entry, and we heard from a lot of people, because the press reported this, that the reason the Botanic Gardens are raising the fees is because of the parking structure. They're having to pay for the parking structure. And a lot of people in District 10 don't use a car, or don't use the parking structure, or a fair number of you in District 10 don't have a car at all, and use the Botanic Gardens all the time because it is, frankly, in our backyards. And so we're somewhat frustrated that you're going to have to pay more to subsidize parking for people who who are using cars anyway, when like the East Central Area Plan and all of our other guiding documents say we're prioritizing pedestrians over all other forms of transit. The form of transit that we're prioritizing the lowest in all our guiding documents are single occupant vehicles. So in other words, all those things that we might use the parking structure for. So I asked the council to hold a 30-minute courtesy public hearing on Monday night about the Botanic Gardens and the increase in rates. So if you have thoughts or comments, of course, you're welcome to leave them here in Facebook. You're also welcome to come to our council meeting on Monday night. And the city council meeting starts at 5:30. We for sure will not hold that public comment before 6 p.m. But you can sign up ahead of time. If you need help signing up ahead of time, then just let us know in the comments, and we'll give you some extra guidance. Let's talk a little bit about city accessible. I think it's important for us to have our city accessible to all of us, and I talked a lot about that in the campaign as well. This is under the transportation header, and so we have been, I just want to give you an update. We've been working with some of our subject matter experts, there we go, who are experts in both transportation and technology. And we're talking with them to see if there are better ways for us to both get information from the public about making sure that our right-of-way is free and available to everyone, and providing that data in a publicly accessible sort of way. And so, like, what am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about things in the bike lanes. I'm talking about things on our sidewalks. Sometimes that could be cars. Sometimes that could be couches. Sometimes that could be boats. I've got pictures of all of those in the city of Denver, or sometimes that could be snow too. As we've seen recently, there have been a lot of concerns about snow abatement on our sidewalks, or the lack of snow abatement on our sidewalks. And we've heard a lot of concerns about how 311 is a black box, and people are encouraged to submit their concerns to 311, but they don't know if that does anything or goes anywhere. So we hear you, and we're having conversations to figure out how we can make things better for everyone. Make it better as in, once you submit something, you know what is going on with it, and make sure that our government is transparent and accountable. Something else that just took effect, so we had several laws that were passed at the state legislature that went into effect on January 1st, by the way. A law that passed through the city council that took effect on January 1st was the minimum wage law. So, minimum wage here in the city of Denver is up to $12.85 as of January 1st. And another one of the laws that was passed by the state legislature that took effect on January 1st was cannabis delivery. And so it is specifically for this year, for all of 2020. It is only for medical cannabis patients. But as of January 1st, municipalities can consider opting into delivery on cannabis. And so I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. I'd like to, I know that of the 78 neighborhoods in Denver, Capitol Hill was the one neighborhood that was most in favor of legalization of cannabis. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're in favor of delivery. And so I'd like to hear what your thoughts are about getting delivery. I know that I've heard from, I have a spinal cord injury. A lot of other people who have spinal cord injuries who live in Denver and the Denver metro area say that cannabis has had life-changing influence on them. They've gone from crippling amounts of pharmaceutical medication to none thanks to cannabis. And they say sometimes the biggest barrier is getting from their home when they're suffering to the nearest store. So, but just because the number of people with spinal cord injuries is a small percentage of the population in Denver and the U.S. So, and this law would affect everyone. So, I'd like to hear your thoughts. The state bill received strong support from patient groups, veteran groups, the Epilepsy Foundation of Colorado. The next thing I want to talk about is in the representation category. So we've gone from housing to transportation. Now we're talking about representation. I feel like I'm rushing a little bit, but again, I apologize for being late. We got to figure this technology out. If any of you watching this stream know how to figure out the ridiculous technology boundaries between live streaming and not live streaming, I would love to hear your thoughts. But so anyway, R&O reform. As you may know, Denver City Council's District 10 has 24 R&Os and bids inside of District 10. Almost, the vast majority of them are wholly inside of District 10, but some of them, the boundaries are slightly outside of District 10 as well. So there are 7 R&Os that are just over my house, and that's a lot. That's a lot of representation. And R&Os, as you may know, are registered neighborhood organizations, and they are the vehicle that is in law that Denver uses to communicate with its residents. So an R&O can be formed by anyone at any time. You just submit an application. I think it's free. I don't think you have to pay for it. And you sign up, and suddenly you're representing the people in your boundaries. And in some ways, that's great because it makes representation easily accessible. But in some ways, it could be frustrating because, if you have 7 R&Os overlapping your house like I do, which R&O is for you? Do you go to all of them? So we're looking into how to make R&Os better. I think it's safe to say that there could be some improvement. I don't think anyone's trying to say that the R&O system is fine the way it is. And if you do feel it's fine the way it is, let us know in the comments too. But the vast majority of people that I've talked to, including people who lead R&Os, think that there's some room for improvement. So we'd like to hear your thoughts on that too. With 24 R&Os and bids, we have a lot of opportunity for thoughts. So please do share. Also, I want to give a shout out. There will be not Denver mayor, but there will be a mayor, Pete Buttigieg. He will be coming to District 10 next week. So next Wednesday, if you're interested in learning more, then of course you can ask us. You can also go to peteforamerica.com. But I do want to give a shout out to Mayor Pete, and thank you for coming to Denver, and specifically for spending some time in Denver's Perfect 10. So we heard a bunch of stuff from you in the last week, and our office was technically closed pretty much the whole time, but we were still listening anyway. One D10 constituent, Roger, he said that he's concerned that people who don't shovel snow from the adjacent sidewalks are receiving warning notices after every snowstorm. We hear you. We actually, in one of the reports, I was actually in the news 6 times about the snow abatement in, over the Thanksgiving snowstorm and the lingering snow after Thanksgiving. And in one of the Channel 9 interviews, because they interviewed me twice, but the Channel 9 interview with Marshall Zellinger, I mentioned that that some people are frustrated because after each snowstorm, each time a property is given a notice, a warning, before they're issued a citation. And so We're looking into that. We've heard kind of some conflicting reports. From Public Works, we're hearing that every snowstorm, even if it's 4 days apart, they reset and it's a warning again. Public Works says that that's because we don't know if they're the same tenants or if they're different tenants. And then from Community Planning and Development, who actually goes out and inspects the snow shoveling reports that you submit, they say that they do keep track of properties and if they've received multiple reports. But either way, if they are or aren't, I think it's safe to say that there aren't enough citations. In the 2 weeks after the snowstorm that started the Monday of Thanksgiving week, there were 36 citations for people who didn't shovel their snow. And in the same 2 weeks, there were more than 9,300 right-of-way, as in parking, or car citations. So if we're prioritizing pedestrians over all other forms of transit, it seems like we would issue a few more citations than 36 for lack of snow shoveling, and maybe even out the 9,300 citations for cars. Let's see. So we encourage you to check out that 9 News report with Kyle Clark and Marshall Zellinger and me. I've gotten the 2-minute warning. So let's see. The water leak that's in Golden Triangle, it was finally fixed. I'm glad that the Denver Water was able to patch that, and thank you all of those in Golden Triangle for continuing to reach out to us and Denver Water and probably everyone. We were able to get that resolved. Upcoming events. The Chun annual meeting is next Thursday, January 9th. It's at PSL's hospital at 6:30, and there is a meeting room. The last time I went to the same meeting room, they had signs directing you there, so it was pretty easy to find. Friday, January 10th, I'll be hosting a drop-in coffee hours event at Metropolis Coffee in Golden Triangle from 10 to noon. And the District 10 January newsletter will drop. And we're also planning 4 other constituent drop-in events for January. One will for sure be in the evening. One is in Cherry Creek. And I don't have all of those in front of me, and I'm being told we're out of time anyway. So I'm going to, one more thing. Uptown RNOs are hosting a meeting to discuss the area overlap on Monday, January 13th. So if you're interested in more details, talk with Liz. And the last thing, we would love to meet with you and your HOA or property management company or apartment complex. So if you have interest, we're not going to be talking about politics. And in fact, this is a non-political, what am I trying to say? There's no party, nonpartisan, there we go. It is a nonpartisan office. And so I'm not there to represent Democrats or Republicans. I'm there to represent you. So I would love to take time and go into your apartment or home or condo or building and tell you a little bit about what we're working on and and the biggest thing is to hear from you. So Chris Hinds, Denver City Council's District 10, thank you so much. Happy Friday and Happy New Year.